Listen to me. This is the year, not next year. Not next season. Not when you feel ready. 2026 is the year you stop talking about potential and start proving every last doubter wrong. Not with your mouth, not with your emotions, but with your execution. Because some of you have been building with one hand and tearing yourself down with the other. You praying for elevation while ignoring the blind spots that keep pulling you back to the ground. But this year, no more. This year you confront the parts of you that sabotage you. This year you stop being your own enemy. This year you stop helping people tear down what you built. You want to prove them wrong? Then start by proving you right. Prove that the part of you that believed you could rise wasn't lying. Prove that the fire inside you wasn't a phase, wasn't hype, wasn't a moment. It was destiny talking. But you can't walk into destiny dragging weakness, excuses, and takers behind you. Some of you keep setting tables for people who only show up with empty hands and empty loyalty. They don't clap for you, don't support you, don't invest in you, but they never miss a moment to take from you. In 2026, that ends. You can't pour into people who poke holes in your bucket. You want to prove them wrong? Control your choices. Stop letting your past drive. Stop letting your habits hijack your future. Stop letting your environment decide how far you go. You can't prove them wrong while living like you powerless. You can't prove them wrong while feeding your distractions. And you definitely can't prove them wrong if you keep giving the best parts of you to people who don't even see your value. This is the year you build a foundation strong enough to handle the success you're asking for. Not just the grind people can see, but the discipline behind closed doors, the character when nobody's watching, the commitment when nobody's clapping. When 2026 hits, you're not stepping into it weak, confused, or half-ready. You're stepping into it with a mindset that says, I refuse to be denied this time. This is the year you flip the script. This is the year you silence the noise. This is the year you stop explaining and start demonstrating. Not because they deserve to see it, but because the world needs to see what happens when someone finally becomes everything they were created to be. This is the year you prove them wrong by finally proving yourself right. You've got to confront what you don't see, because what you don't see is what's destroying you. Everybody wants to talk about the grind, the hustle, the execution, the waking up early, the late nights, the sacrifices. But nobody wants to talk about the weaknesses that quietly sit in the corner, waiting to sabotage everything you're building. And that's the dangerous part. It's never the thing you see coming that knocks you out. It's always the thing in your blind spot. You can be strong, you can be talented, you can be gifted beyond measure, but if you ignore the cracks in your character, the fractures in your discipline, the holes in your habits, those blind spots will tear down everything you spent years trying to build. I've seen people grind harder than anybody. I've seen people who had the talent to go to the league, the ambition to build empires, the fire to change their whole bloodline. But somewhere in the back, somewhere hidden, somewhere they refused to look, something small grew. Something they thought didn't matter. Something they told themselves they could control. Something they thought they'd deal with later. And that thing became the very thing that took them out. It wasn't the haters. It wasn't the competition. It wasn't life being unfair. It was them. The older I get, the more I realize that the most dangerous enemy is not outside your house. It's sitting right in the living room with you every single day. And here's the crazy part. Most of you are building with one hand and tearing down with the other. You're putting in the work, you're going to the gym, you're writing the plan, you're posting the goals, you're praying for the breakthrough, you're chasing the life you want. But you won't address the part of you that self-sabotages. So you go up and then you fall right back down. You build momentum and then you lose it. You get a blessing and then you mishandle it. Not because you're not capable, but because you refuse to look at the part of you that keeps breaking the very things you're trying to better. Your blind spots are not your enemy unless you leave them unattended. Your blind spots are places you haven't taken responsibility. They're the pieces of your life you keep telling yourself ain't that deep. It's just one drink. It's just one DM. It's just one shortcut. It's just one time I didn't keep my word. But that one time is costing you the opportunity you keep praying for. That one time is what's blocking the door you think the world is holding shut. It's not the world. It's not the system. It's not the circumstances. It's your blind spot. You need people who can see what you can't. You need voices that don't care about your ego, they care about your growth. You need people who aren't impressed by your grind, but concerned about your gaps. Proud people fall because they think they can see everything. Wise people rise because they admit they can't. And I'm telling you right now, humility is not weakness. Humility is the highest form of strength. It says, I'm willing to face what I've been avoiding. It says, I'd rather go through the discomfort now than deal with destruction later. It says, I'm not scared of the truth. I'm scared of being the reason I fail. You keep asking God for more when you haven't managed what you already have. You keep asking for elevation when you haven't stabilized the foundation. You keep asking for opportunities, but haven't mastered the discipline to sustain them. Blind spots don't reveal themselves in the moment of success. They reveal themselves once you're already up there, and by then it's too late. So, I need you to confront it now. I need you to stop pretending. Stop avoiding. Stop running from the parts of you that need correction. You can grind your way to the top, but if you don't fix your blind spots, you'll fall your way back to the bottom every time. You've been asking for elevation without preparation. You've been asking for doors to open when you haven't taken control of the life you already have. Listen to me, nothing changes until you take your power back. Nothing shifts until you stop letting life happen to you and start deciding what happens next. Too many of you are moving like passengers when God designed you to be the driver. You're waiting for opportunities to magically line up. You're waiting for people to treat you better. You're waiting for circumstances to improve. But you're not waiting on alignment, you're avoiding accountability. You keep giving away the steering wheel, and then you're shocked when you end up somewhere you don't want to be. You keep talking about purpose, destiny, calling, success, greatness. But the first step to all of that is control. Not control of the world, not control of other people, but control of yourself. Control of your thoughts, your reactions, your decisions, your cravings, your emotions, your habits. You want God to bless you with more, but God can't bless chaos. God can't bless inconsistency. God can't bless a person who won't take ownership of what they can actually manage. You want divine breakthroughs, but you're living with human excuses. I just didn't feel like it. It wasn't the right time. They made me mad. Life got stressful. You're out here giving your power to everything except discipline. Let me tell you the truth. You cannot build a high-level life with low-level control. You cannot build greatness while letting people, moods, cravings, and impulses dictate your next step. When you don't have control, you can't protect your gift. When you don't have control, you can't sustain the blessings God sends. When you don't have control, you lose opportunities you were trusted with. And most of you think you lost because of haters or setbacks. But the truth is, you lost because you were not in control of you. You don't need the whole world to get better for your life to get better. You just need you. You don't need more people to believe in you, support you, clap for you, cheer for you, or fund you. You need to stop being the person who keeps derailing your own progress. You want freedom, but freedom with no discipline is a disaster. You want success, but success with no structure becomes self-destruction. You want impact, but impact without self-management destroys reputations, relationships, and opportunities. And listen, taking control isn't sexy. It's not glamorous. It's not rocket science. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's waking up when the bed feels warm. It's saying no when the temptation feels strong. It's walking away from people who drain you instead of pretending they don't. It's checking yourself when your attitude isn't right. It's staying focused when distractions scream louder than your goals. It's doing what's right when nobody's watching. Control is not something you feel. Control is a muscle you train. I've seen people with less talent win because they had more control. I've seen people with smaller opportunities surpass giants because they refused to drift. I've seen entire families change because one person decided, I'm not letting this cycle run through me anymore. You don't rise because you want it. You rise because you manage the moments everybody else throws away. You rise because you discipline the parts of yourself your old self ignored. You rise because you stop letting life toss you around like a leaf in the wind, and you plant your feet like a tree that refuses to be moved. And the moment you decide to take your control back, not halfway, not sometimes, not when you feel good, but for real, everything shifts. Because once you master you, you unlock the version of yourself capable of receiving everything you've been praying for. You keep wondering why you feel drained, why your spirit feels heavy, why your progress stops and starts like a car with no fuel. It's because you're feeding people who were never meant to eat from your table. You're pouring into people who don't pour back. You're carrying people who refuse to walk. You're investing energy into folks who don't even have the decency to say thank you. And you don't even see it because you've normalized it. You've normalized takers. You've normalized being surrounded by people who love what you do but don't love who you are. You keep setting the table for people who only come to your life with to-go plates. They show up with empty hands and big expectations. They want access without contribution. They want your time without offering loyalty. They want your help without giving you honesty. They want your food, your energy, your ideas, your peace. But they never bring anything to the table. You're frustrated and you think it's God holding you back. But no, it's the company you keep. You can't soar while babysitting anchors. You can't fly while feeding vultures. You can't thrive while surrounding yourself with people who only take. You keep giving to people who don't respect what they're receiving. You keep trusting people who haven't earned that level of access. You keep forgiving people who aren't sorry and tolerating people who add no value. And every time you elevate, they show up with bigger containers because they know you're going to keep giving. You've trained them to expect your sacrifice, not appreciate it. You've trained them to take advantage, not to grow. You've trained them to depend on you instead of developing themselves. Let me tell you something. You can't become who you're meant to be while protecting people who refuse to grow. You can't move into your next season carrying folks who were only assigned to your last one. And some of you are losing sleep because you're trying to rescue people who don't want transformation. They want comfort. They don't want discipline. They want shortcuts. They don't want accountability. They want excuses. They don't want to change. They want you to change the outcome for them. And the wild part? You're not drained because of the work. You're drained because of who you're working for. You're drained because you've been feeding people who never feed you back. You're drained because you're investing in people who don't even invest in themselves. You're tired because you've been giving first-class effort to people. Living with standby mindsets. At some point, you've got to protect your gift. You've got to guard your peace. You've got to draw boundaries. You've got to stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You've got to stop sacrificing your purpose to keep people comfortable. You've got to stop allowing people to withdraw from an account they never deposit into. And listen to me closely. This is not about being selfish. This is about being a good steward of what God gave you. This is about understanding that your energy, your gift, your purpose, your calling, your spirit are not unlimited resources. You don't have time to be drained by the wrong people when the right people are waiting for the version of you who's whole, focused, fueled, and unstoppable. You elevate when you stop feeding everyone. You elevate when you stop trying to save people who aren't sinking. They're swimming toward your boat just to pull you under. You elevate when you realize that some people aren't meant to grow with you. Some people aren't meant to sit at the table with you. Some people can eat with you but not live with you. Some people can cheer for you but cannot walk with you. And the very moment, you stop making plates for people who only come to take, God will send people who come to build, people who come to contribute, people who come to sharpen you, stretch you, strengthen you, people who show up not with to-go containers, but with ingredients to cook with you. You keep crying over setbacks because you haven't learned how to steward the opportunities that were handed to you. You keep looking around wondering why other people are winning, why other people are elevating, why other people are moving faster, but you don't even realize you've been given opportunities you didn't honor. You had doors open for you, but you weren't ready to walk through them. You had chances that required discipline, but you showed up with excuses. You had blessings waiting on the other side of consistency, but you brought inconsistency. And then when it didn't work, you blamed the world, you blamed your parents, you blamed your past, you blamed your city, you blamed your circumstances. You blamed everything except the real truth. You weren't ready when your moment came. Let me talk to you like somebody loves you. You can't keep asking for elevation while living with habits that destroy your foundation. You can't keep praying for opportunities when you don't have the character to sustain them. You can't ask for more territory when your integrity isn't strong enough to handle the pressure. You want the platform, but you don't want the preparation. You want the stage, but you don't want the sacrifice. You want the victory, but you don't want the discipline. You want success, but you don't want the structure that success requires. What's killing most people is not the lack of opportunity, it's the lack of preparation. You keep asking God for more, but God is looking at you like, why would I give you more when you don't protect what you already have? You keep asking for success, but you haven't built the strength to handle it. And success is weight, success is pressure. Success is responsibility. Success requires maturity. Success demands control. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack structure, they lack discipline. They lack self-awareness. They don't know their blind spots, so they build high without digging deep. You want the blessing, but you don't want the burden that keeps the blessing safe. You want the influence, but you don't want the accountability that comes with influence. You want the reward without the routine. You want the fruit without the roots. You keep stacking bricks on weak soil and then cry when the building collapses. You're not cursed. You're not unlucky. You're not forgotten. You're not broken. You're unprepared. You're inexperienced. You're inconsistent. And the moment you own, that is the moment you reclaim your power. Greatness does not come to the gifted. It comes to the grounded. The people who build deep before they build tall. The people who say, before I chase the spotlight, let me build my soul. Before I chase money, let me master discipline. Before I chase success, let me repair my character. Before I expand my influence, let me strengthen my foundation. Because when the storm hits, and it will, it's not your connections that keep you standing. It's not your followers. It's not your talent. It's your foundation. You keep failing because you're building up but never building down. You're developing skills, but not developing character. You're elevating your brand, but not elevating your discipline. You're polishing the surface, but ignoring the cracks underneath. And when life applies pressure, those cracks turn into breaks, and those breaks collapse everything you worked for. But if you take the time to build right, to build slow, to build steady, to build strong, nothing and no one can stop what God has for you. Stop blaming others for the opportunities you blew. Stop blaming the world for the chances you wasted. Stop blaming your past for the discipline you refused to develop. Start building your foundation like your life depends on it, because it those of you you've been trying to build a masterpiece with people who don't even respect the ingredients. You're trying to go somewhere with people who aren't even trying to grow themselves. You're trying to climb mountains with people who get winded walking up stairs. And you keep wondering why you feel drained, discouraged, unfocused, inconsistent. It's because you keep feeding people who were only meant to visit your life, not sit at your table. You keep serving loyalty to people who don't even serve respect. You're out here preparing meals for people who show up with empty hands, empty hearts, and empty intentions. And the crazy part is, every time you plate your purpose, they take it to go. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The ones who only call when they need something. The ones who celebrate you in public, but resent you in private. The ones who eat off your grind, your creativity, your strength, your energy, but never pour back into you. They don't clap when you win. They don't support when you struggle. They don't invest where they take. They drain you, distract you, destabilize you, and then leave you responsible for the cleanup. And here's the truth you don't want to confront. Your life is stuck not because of what you lack, but because of what you allow. You keep giving to people God never told you to give to. You keep trying to save people who refuse to save themselves. You keep mentoring people who don't want growth, they want access. You keep loving people who don't love themselves. You keep showing up for people who never show up for you. And then you wonder why you're exhausted. You wonder why you're spiritually empty. You wonder why you're emotionally bankrupt. You wonder why your dreams feel heavy. It's because you're carrying people who should have been released a long time ago. Listen to me. This next season of your life is not about being nice. It's about being necessary. Necessary for your destiny. Necessary for your peace. Necessary for your purpose. Necessary for your future. And that means you cannot keep making plates for people who are only supposed to be in the audience, not backstage. You cannot keep feeding relationships that starve your potential. You cannot keep entertaining people who dishonor your calling. You cannot keep allowing takers to sit at a table they never helped build. You've got gifts inside you that require protection. You've got dreams inside you that require boundaries. You've got a future that requires discernment. Everybody can't go with you, and everybody shouldn't go with you. Some people were blessings for a season, but poison for a lifetime. Some people helped you survive, but they can't help you grow. Some people liked you broken because it made them feel whole. Some people liked you lost because it made them feel found. Some people liked you small because it made their ego feel big. And now that you're healing, now that you're rising, now that you're demanding more, they can't handle it. So hear me. The next version of you requires stronger circles, tighter boundaries, clearer standards, and unapologetic separation. You cannot reach greatness surrounded by people committed to average. You cannot transform your life surrounded by people allergic to accountability. You cannot evolve while protecting relationships that keep you stagnant. And I know it hurts. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it feels disloyal. But staying connected to the wrong people is the most dangerous form of self-sabotage. You're not cold. You're not rude. You're not selfish. You're finally protecting what God put in you. You're finally honoring what you carry. You're finally valuing what you've been given. And the moment you stop feeding the wrong people is the moment you start feeding your purpose.